Yeah, I think doing our best to strip the emotions of the moment of how long we've loved each other or loved this thing or done this thing or how much money, like strip all the emotional things out of it and say, okay, from here onward, am I encouraged by this, inspired by this?
Hi, friend. This is Annette.
This is Jared.
And welcome to our Happy Family podcast.
We're passionate about happy, healthy relationships.
And that only happens with happy, healthy people.
So join us each week as we discuss the ingredients of making your own happy family.
Thanks for joining us. Let's jump in. Hello, family. Welcome back to another episode of the Happy Family podcast, hosted by myself, Annette, and my good-looking husband, Jared. Your shirt looks cute.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're here today to talk to you about something that I think is very important to talk about.
It's kind of delicate.
Yeah, when it comes to life, when it comes to life and farm life in general, and then specifically farm life. And that is the thought of knowing when to let go. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. I have no idea.
So I'm going to give you a few thoughts on us here. So when we moved here almost 8 years ago, we went full in, right? And I
don't know if there's any other speed in life.
I know.
So yes.
For us
the answer is yes.
Anyone?
The answer is yes. Oh yeah, all in.
I know, but I'm saying we went all in. And I think now, years later, our advice has been, which I agree, which I think is not exactly what we did, is to kind of find your why, know why you're doing things, and try to tackle one thing at a time. And I'm speaking specifically to the fact if you want to homestead, farm, move to the country, that sort of thing. And I think in life it also applies. Don't do too many things at once.
Sure.
But when we moved out here, we were so excited and we kind of went all out. And by that I mean, let's, get animals. And when we decided to get animals, I did some research. I don't think I did enough research, and that is something I would recommend. You need to know what animals are good for the type of land you have, the setup you have in terms of housing, fencing. There's a lot of factors.
I mean, I'll give an example.
Sure.
What's your comfort level of birthing animals?
Right.
Some animals just drop out a baby and they're racing along.
Yeah.
Others, I think someone we know with sheep recently, and for us it was alpacas.
Yeah.
I mean, if you weren't a nurse, you were down there birthing an alpaca multiple times.
There's just things I do feel it's very important. Know what you're getting yourself into to a degree. You're not going to know 100%. But I'm saying all that to say that when we went into this lifestyle and jumped in, dove in head first, I had this notion of I want to have alpacas. Well, because obviously they're so cute and fluffy. And it was just an exciting thing. There was an alpaca farm near us at the time, and literally in the same town we're in. And it just seemed right, okay? So we went ahead, we got alpacas, and the general consensus I was told when we purchased them was, they're pretty easy to care for. You just got to do these things. And I was like, okay. And these things were a lot of details. But I'd never had them before, so I thought, this is just normal animal care, no problem. So we started doing all these things with them. We had the alpacas, we got chickens, we got donkeys, all the things. Well, then I started to realize alpacas are not low maintenance, they are high maintenance. And with that came a lot of illness. And if you've had alpacas in the past, or if you've thought about getting alpacas, or if you're just listening and have no farm, no animals, but want to know about alpacas, I'm just going to tell you, they are not sturdy animals. They're not genetically strong, right?
I mean, there may be some, but many here in the States. For the most part,
in the United States, alpacas were brought in the 80s, I believe, or 70s, 80s. They've not been in our country for that long. I don't think they've acclimated to being in our country. They have been inbred a lot. And that has led to a lot of disease and issues with them. And we have experienced a lot of that. And unlike most people that I know that have alpacas, I had a vet who's been wonderful, who knows alpacas. And it's rare to find a vet that actually knows about alpacas because, again, they're not a very common animal. And she's been wonderful at giving us, I mean, anytime an alpaca got sick, she was here. I'm giving them all the medicine, doing all the things. And we have had a lot of them die. And that's very hard to admit because, I mean, you don't want an animal to die, first of all, an animal that you've cared for or taken care of. And we've had a lot of them die.
Especially when you're checking on them at the first sign of anything, you call the vet comes out.
Yeah, it's not like they've had no care. I mean, they have had care. This is because, this is monthly checkups, worming, injections. I mean, I was looking through some of my animal medical supplies, and I have like an arsenal of things always for my alpacas. I've never had to give any of my other animals any of these things. And so it's hard when you first dive in head first into something and you think, I'm starting this, idyllic lifestyle that's, so, beautiful and wonderful. And I'm outside and I'm gathering vegetables and then I run over and look at my animals and, this sort of thing that we like to see and portray. When there's the flip side of your animals, are dying and are sick and you're having to do these things, it's very hard. And it's not at all what you pictured in your, wonderful, picturesque life. So through the years, we have had, in the last couple of years, 2 alpacas, Opal and Percy. And they really are animals that need to be in pairs. And really, there should be 3 of them for them to be happy. But 2 was like, okay, we were like, fine, we've got 2, we're going to keep them. Well, our sweet Percy got sick this past December and did not do well. And he passed in February. And poor little Opal was left alone. And there is one thing where I feel this applies to life or, farm life, real life. I don't think it's good to be alone person. I think it's good to have friends. I think it's good to have people encouraging you to be in your corner. And specifically with animals, they don't do well by themselves. Now, Opal was not by herself. She had the goats with her. She had donkeys with her. She wasn't without company, but she didn't have one of her kind. And so I think we were at the point where we had to make the decision, which when is it time to let go? And that's really hard. It's been really hard because I feel like alpacas have been such a big, part of what we've done, or I don't know, part of our life for like almost 8 years or 7 years. And you're used to seeing an animal out there when you go out. So my thought was, I have to get more alpacas to be Opal's friend, or it's time that she goes to a different home. And I think after 7 years, we decided, you know what? It's time to not have alpacas. And that's hard. Mm-hmm. That's been hard. That's been hard for me. I feel like it's been pretty sad when I walk out and there's no alpacas. However, now we have a baby donkey. And I will tell you, I feel like there's always this cycle when there's like sad, there's always like a good to come. And I feel like this little baby donkey was born like exactly at the time that we needed it to bring kind of some fun back into the mix. But I called my vet and I said, can you please take Opal? Because she has alpacas and I know she'll be cared for over there. I just was like, I can't handle something else happening to an alpaca. So we realized, hey, it was time to let go. And that is something I feel like I'll speak specifically on farm life and then you speak about real life. But for farm life, sometimes I think when you go in this lifestyle, it's fun to get all the animals and all the things. I want 3 of this, 2 of this, 1. And then you realize you have to take care of these animals and provide for their needs and keep up with their health and do all these things. And sometimes it's okay, like kind of when the glamour of it fades a little bit after a few years, you're like, it's probably good to just have what works for us, what's good for our land, serves our purpose, and we can do it. So we decided it's not alpacas anymore. So we're going to stick with goats and donkeys for now, and all the birds.
Which seem to be resilient.
I was looking online for a cow. I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to say it. But I don't really want a cow. But I was looking just because it's fun to look. We had 2 miniature horses also a few years back. We took them in and they were great for a little while. But then I realized for me, I didn't have the amount of time they required for me to care for them. And so we found them a different home and that was okay. And that was kind of sad because they were cute and fun. But it was like, it's okay in life to realize, you know what? Maybe this is not the best time and place right now for me. Not a good time. Maybe later. Let's move on to something else.
Right.
So don't be afraid to do that, I guess is what I'm saying. Maybe it's want. This sounds also want.
No, but I mean, knowing when to let go is often like...
Yeah, like it's okay to... And it's also sometimes for the benefit of the other person or animal or whatever too. What's best for them, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about in terms of real life?
Well, animals are real life.
No, I mean like in real human relationships.
All right, so I'll give
person to person, not animal person.
All right, I'll give you an example of one I just read. It's pretty interesting. It talked about this guy that got sucked into, I guess there's been a pretty big timeshare scam in recent years where people are like, we're going to buy your timeshare, but we're going to need you to pay a transfer fee. And anyway, this guy gets into it and he realizes he's been scammed.
Oh.
And he somehow, for some reason, spends $1.8 million over the next however many years fighting.
Oh, no.
For his like $60,000 timeshare.
No.
And I just thought to myself, dude, let it go.
Like at some point you got to let go.
This is your sign.
But I feel like someone wasn't surrounding that person with enough support to say that.
But I mean, so, all right, to anybody who's ever watched or played the game Texas Hold'em. Well, shows my ignorance. There is the idea that you are into a hand and you are just chasing bad money. That you've got pocket aces and you're like, well, I mean, I'm absolutely going to win. But for some reason, this guy on the other side of the table just keeps betting and you're like, what is happening right now? And you're like, well, I mean, I got to keep going in. Sorry. So there's this idea of just at some point you have to realize something's not adding up. Mm-hmm. So we've had a few business ventures like that. Mm-hmm. Super passionate about it.
Yeah.
I think of two particularly, one in the beverage industry, one in food. Mm-hmm. I mean, sexy logos, packaging.
That was Jared's
brilliant idea. Huge market potential. Mm-hmm. And we began to go down that path. And I'll think of the one that I thought was a bigger opportunity. We end up going to market and then get into where in the beginning it had not been a trademark dispute, but then a company wants to make issue and they want to fight. Mm-hmm. Well, at first it's like, well, I think this is worth fighting. We've got a huge opportunity here. And then you start to add up legal fees and you're like, okay, what are we doing here? And what are the odds here? And do they just want to fight?
Yeah.
And we had to come to the point like, do we just like stop?
It's hard to scrap something.
And it's like, you just have to almost be like, I'm in love with this thing. It hasn't done anything bad to me. Mm-hmm. But do we have to let it go? Mm-hmm. It is so hard.
And sometimes it's maybe just even timing in life. Not necessarily that the actual thing isn't working or going to work, but maybe it's not the right time. And so it's like, well, can't do it.
I'll think of another one. We bought some property that we thought this is going to be a great Airbnb.
Yeah, that's a great one.
We're fixing it up.
We're all about it.
We are all about it.
It's like right at COVID, I guess, though.
Yeah, we are like, this is going to be great. And that is pouring all our heart and soul into the design, the aesthetics.
So cute.
So cute, so beautiful. And it's solar powered. So it's totally off grid.
It was like basically the most amazing sounding little weekend getaway at the top of a mountain.
It was amazing.
Like not too far from us.
We're making trips like on Sundays to go
Airbnb
work.
It's going to be great.
And so we're about ready.
Like off grid, which is like so amazing.
So
it was
cool.
fully functional. Water tank.
Yeah, rainwater storage, all this stuff. And we're like about ready to go. We've done all our homework. and we're putting the finishing touches on. We're like, hey, let's go up this Sunday and maybe we'll do that one last thing we're wanting to work on.
This
Then
is
we need
literally this is probably literally 2 weeks before we put it on Airbnb.
Yes.
Right?
We are ready to go.
I went up
We're going to take pictures.
We go ahead and take pictures. I'm taking like bedspreads for the bed because it's so cute.
So the entire, I'll just tell you what happened first. We get up there and
the lights didn't
work.
Yeah.
It's like, that's strange. And then it's like, I kind of smell smoke. Is something like, that's a strange smell. So I tell Annette, I'm going to go check out the inverters, batteries, solar system, see if there's a switch that needs to be flipped. I walk around back and the entire solar array and system and container system housing structure had exploded. Literally.
It was a poof of black dust
soot
everywhere.
It had exploded. I was so mad. There's no insurance because, we don't need insurance on this thing yet. Like, we haven't even got it ready to list. We're just working on it. That was so dumb.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Anyway, this thing exploded.
This is
Everything
something
in
we've
it
put
ruined.
a lot of time and money in.
A lot of time and money.
Yeah.
The water pump system is in this housing, washers and dryers, all the batteries, whole bunch of tools, and the entire thing exploded.
Literally
blew the doors off the structure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Annette, this is bad. But I think we just need to let it go. Sell it.
No.
Cut our losses.
No, let's be honest.
Okay, remind me. I think I blocked it out.
You didn't want to let it go. Let's be honest. At first, you were like, okay. So then we thought, do we look into
fixing,
trenching an actual power line from the road? Now, this place is in the top of a gigantic, it was like this steep 45, what is this? 45-degree angle to get maybe 90 degrees. No, this is straight up. But I think at first you were, because we'd been working on it so much. So it's like, how do we solve this? But to replace an entire solar system, battery system is
inverters, everything.
Very pricey. To drill or trench a line, electrical line or whatever from the road was also a feat. And so then we were like, well, what in the world? And I feel like I was the one that just said, maybe we should just sell it.
Yeah,
and you were like, what? And I'm like,
yeah, I never want to.
And in my head,
go.
You don't understand. I was picturing, I walked out onto my little porch in the mountains and I just came out of my cute little cozy whatever that I decorated. I don't know what I was thinking. We were going to spend weekends there and I don't know, do what with all our spare time. But it was just, we never got to stay there.
Not one
So in
night.
my head, it was quite a down. It was very hard to be like, let's let it go because we had all these plans. But we realized it wasn't the time. And honestly, I think it was divine intervention that happened because then other things and projects we got involved in now require a lot more of our time where I think anyways, it would have been a little bit, it was good timing and we didn't see it at the time. And I think in life, a lot of times that is the case. It ends up being the timing that it needs to be for a reason, but it's hard to see that when you're in it. So I think I just said, well, why don't we just sell it? And then we're like, who's going to buy this thing with, it doesn't work. And somebody bought it.
Yeah.
Somebody that just like wanted it and was like, no problem, we'll fix it up. It was a nice property. It was a nice place. So we sold it.
Which
was wild.
Felt a little defeated. We literally sometimes...
it was 2 years of working on it.
Yeah.
Which is a long time, but it was like our side thing. Literally 2 years. Oh, which seemed kind of like a waste, but it wasn't. It actually ended up not being. It was actually ended up being a blessing. So...
But that's a great example.
Yeah.
Like you're so far into something, whether it's a business idea or even a business it's going, but it's like, I just own my job. Or that was obviously an example with real estate.
Yeah.
You talked about with animals. I think, another area is relationships.
Yeah.
I've invested so much in this relationship. Like, how do you know when to say, this isn't working?
Mm-hmm. That's hard. That's really hard.
I think a lot of times with friends, we were talking about this in a class I was leading out in yesterday. Basically, at what point do you say, you know what? He or she was my friend. We had great times together, but time to move on. And boy, that made some fascinating discussion.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I was just talking to someone the other day and they were telling me, I think, they've been my friend growing up. I think there's an affinity when you grow up with someone.
Yeah.
Because there's that connection. But unless in life you make an effort to really stay in contact with that person, the person you're friends with at 10 years old, you are a completely different human at 25, 35, 45, right?
Yeah.
And unless, you're in it for the long haul, and we've talked about kind of, I think in a few episodes ago, having like a friendship contract, like what is it you need from me as a friend to keep, friends for the next decade or so. If you haven't had that conversation, I think sometimes there's this affinity of a childhood friend, but maybe, later on in life, you might be totally different people. And so then you can't, be friends anymore,
I thought of someone recently.
And it's okay. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean you don't like each other. It's just maybe you're not,
I thought of someone recently who's become extremely negative, and I just thought, at some point, like, negativity can wear on you.
Yeah.
Like, for your own health and sake, like, what does that look like, letting go of a friendship? That's a hard thing.
Yeah.
But for some of us, it may be the best thing we should do.
Yeah. Well, I feel like, how does it work when you're on the flip side of that? So I feel like I had a very close friend that decided they no longer wanted to be my friend. And so for me, that was very hard because that's not how I felt. So it was like, okay, this is so weird, but sometimes you have to realize that in life, you might not know someone's circumstances or what's going on. And if for them, it's not working out for them anymore, you can't force something.
Yeah.
And then maybe ultimately, it's better for me too. But it can be a hard pill to swallow. But I think that's why, sometimes it's good to have honest conversations with oneself and with maybe friends or family. Like, hey, what's working? What's not working? When it comes, with the thing with the animals and all of that, you get kind of in the routine of just daily life, feed the animals, do everything. But it's like at some point, what's working or not working in our scenario?
Yeah, I think doing our best to strip the emotions of the moment of how long we've loved each other or loved this thing or done this thing or how much money, like strip all the emotional things out of it and say, okay, from here onward, am I encouraged by this, inspired by this, hopeful for this, seeing, if it's like, boy, you have to really weigh the options, get some counsel from people you trust and respect, lay out all the details, don't hide anything, and say, hey, what do you think I should do here? Because sometimes you need someone else to say, hey, they don't have the emotions you have. Well,
sometimes you don't, right, because you're so emotionally invested. I feel like for me with alpacas, we lost one like 3 or 4 years ago where I was ready to give them all up. And I kind of wish I had, in a way, because I feel like I would have prevented myself some suffering from losing another. But it was like, well, let's just keep trying, because it's hard to just, change. Change is hard. Not for some people, but for me, it is a lot of times. You kind of wish somebody would be like, it's okay,
It's okay to change. It's okay to let go.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you a little perspective. I don't think I was planning on talking about this, but I think it's important, and I'll give you the perspective. I used to work in the hospital as a nurse, and I so many times saw where family members could not let someone go. And that is a very hard conversation. It's a very hard place to be, but I will encourage you, if you have family members who are, older or sick or even normal and healthy, it's good to have those hard conversations of what would you want to happen if something happened to me? Because if you never have those conversations, you could be in a position where someone is on a breathing machine and the doctors are asking you, what do you want to do with your family member? And if you've never had that conversation, it is very hard. And I will tell you, you will save yourself a lot of grief and emotion if you have the hard conversations when someone is alive and healthy and talking, and you can have an honest conversation, because that's one of the hardest things. And I saw time and time again where people could not let go with, having this hope of maybe someone could survive, or maybe, and then it's like, well, what would their quality of life be? Like maybe they survive on a machine, but that's not quality of life. I felt like with our alpaca Percy, it's like we made the decision to put him down because I felt like I couldn't get to a point where he didn't have quality of life. If he was happy and eating and drinking and doing things, well, then, that's one thing. But if you're not able to sometimes do some of those things, whether you're an animal or a human, maybe it's not the best quality of life. And that is a hard conversation that people do not have.
No, they don't.
And people should have. I feel like I'm probably most passionate about that because I saw it for so many years over and over because it's so hard on families.
Yeah.
But
Preach it, sister.
Yeah, sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but man, that one to me is like
no, I think
that one. It's a big deal.
I would imagine if most people hear the title of this episode, they would think like that topic.
Yeah, maybe
or a relationship. Like, and that is a relationship. So I think it's very, very practical.
Yeah, it's just good to, and maybe in life we always think of when is it okay to let go? We think of it as a negative thing, but maybe if you think of it of what kind of space does it open up in your life to receive something new. That doesn't mean just because you get rid of something you have to fill it, but maybe does it put you in a state of mind or in a place where you're then maybe more willing and open to new experiences or new things or new people that you would have never had before. So that can be a great thing, and something, especially in different stages of life. Because again, I feel like
we've seen that so many times.
We're so different in different stages in life. I don't know. But I encourage you, if you are in a crossroad, right? Or a place where you're thinking of something or what should I do or not do, think about the fact that sometimes letting go is okay.
Like it.
Doesn't mean it's easy, but it's okay. Right?
Yeah.
Should I leave it at that?
Leave it at that.
Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I am going to try to not, in my personal life, when I apply this to the fact that we let go of owning alpacas, I'm trying hard for it to not me open up space into wanting all the other animals to then come. So I'm trying to give myself a period of time and space to just be in where we are. And then we'll see.
See how long this lasts.
Yes, we'll see. But for now, thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part, and we will be back next time.